Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Premier Sim Gaming Leagues. We're nearly at the halfway point in Season 28 here on the PS4, PS5, and it's time to visit Zandvoort for the second time in PSGL history for Round 5, the Dutch Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge. Alongside me once again in the commentary box is Dan Field. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing brilliant as always for the Dutch Grand Prix, a very different track to the one that we were at last week. Of course, we were at Belgium where Wilson Hughes, he took his first win of the season, really bouncing back after the difficult start he's had to the season so far. But the Dutch Grand Prix, that's going to pose a bigger challenge for some of these drivers. Of course, the first game that it is actually on in the F1 series, so not as much experience around this circuit as is a track like Belgium, so it's definitely going to pose a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And as you've already mentioned there, it was Wilson Hughes taking his first win of the season. Maybe slightly controversial circumstances. You might remember that small collision with Hughes on the final lap of the race. In the end, the stewards decided no further action for that, and Wilson basically saying he's not here to make friends. He doesn't care as long as he's winning, and that is definitely the attitude of a champion.
Absolutely, that is the attitude that you really do need to have. All is well if you're just having a good time in PSGL, but some of these guys, they really do want to have the fight to win it. And Wilson, well, he's not playing around anymore, I think.
No, definitely, he's taking these things really serious, as you would expect. It was still the best result of the season for Houston Duncan, who finished second and third for Alfa Romeo. Best result of the season, actually, for quite a lot of the drivers. It was only Mish and Jordan out of the top 10 who didn't get their best finish of the season. The top two in the championship going into that race didn't score any points whatsoever, but despite that, it is still CRG Gamer on top of the championship, now just 1 point ahead of Wilson Hughes, Samia Bean, Mish, Jordan, Duncan, the top 6 drivers within 8 points at the moment, all the way down to Blizzard. Could still actually be on top of the championship by the end of the night. And if we have a check at the team's championship, McLaren are on top then by 17 points from Williams. Alfa Romeo climbing themselves up into third place, and Alfa Tauri getting their first point of the season. And you've already mentioned, Dan, a very different track to what we had last time out. We all know it's very fast and flowing at Belgium. You've got some pretty fast parts around this circuit as well, but incredibly narrow, incredibly difficult to really get any overtaking done.
Yeah, there's not many places where you actually can pull off a move, I guess, coming down into, I think, turn number 12, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of one of 2 DRS straights, and of course, into the first corner. But even so, that's a pretty difficult part to overtake on, but they've got to navigate qualifying first. It is a pretty short lap around here. We're looking at a pole time for around about maybe a 107.7 is probably accurate as to where they actually are in terms of their pace. But I'm also pleased to say that we do have 20 drivers in this race, a completely different Haas lineup for tonight. Vastorator has left the league, and he's been replaced by a driver who's been really strong in the Challenger series of Schumacher. Of course, Schumacher __1, and then Petrox is filling in for Jordan today. He's still in the league, but Petrox just coming up from F2 as an F1 reserve.
Yeah, Jordan got some exams today, so best of luck. Well, got some exams tomorrow, I should say, so best of luck for Jordan. Decided, maybe quite wisely, that he should spend a bit more time studying for the exam rather than blasting around Zandvoort, so it would have relieved some stress. As you said, quite a short lap around here, 67 seconds, just over you'll be expected for qualifying. In F2, it was a 107.999, so you can't get much closer to the 68-second mark than that, so we would expect a tiny bit faster from these drivers. And it is going to be VSR Duncan to take us around this circuit, first used in 1952, famous for being where James Hunt took his first ever victory and Niki Lauda took his last ever victory in Formula 1, actually at the last running of the race in 1985. Duncan locking up there into turn 1, just going slightly wide of the apex, but you do want to avoid that curb, and he comes flying through turn 2. Now the banked section of turn 3, quite a few banked corners around this circuit just to try and promote a bit more overtaking. Now heading down through this sweeping S section, one of the few gradient changes on this track as you crest the top of the hill into turn 7. Just a bit of a lift there and changing it down into 6th gear. Attack the curb at turn 8. Not too much though, as there is a bit more of a steeper curve on the inside, and then braking and turning into 9. You have to do something similar for turn 10, and that is why the drivers say out of all the circuits on the F1 game, this could well be the one where if you are allowed to use ABS, which you're not in any of the top 3 PSGL leagues, but you're not in any of the top 7 PSGL leagues, it's no assist whatsoever for the top 3. We don't have that luxury, so very tricky for the drivers. Expect to see a lot of lockups around here, but it's gone pretty smooth so far for Duncan. Coming through the penultimate corner, now onto the final corner. Another steep banking for this section. Stick over to the right-hand side of the track. You'll see a lot of drivers doing this. And a 108.127 from Duncan. Very good first lap for him.
Yeah, his teammate immediately does beat that one there. Blizzard going into 3rd position. Seems like Wilson Hughes on a pretty good run at the moment. He was purple through the 2nd sector and coming through, taking the shortest run up to the line, sticking to that right-hand side. He goes a little bit slower than Yost, the only driver to go into the 107.9s, but an 8.0. He definitely did lose time in that final sector. He was purple in... actually, he lost it all in the 1st sector. I am mistaken there. He was about a 10th or so off of use through there, but he was quicker in the other sectors. There's more times coming up on the board as they finish up their laps. You can probably fit a couple of runs in, a couple more runs than you would expect to run another circuit because of how short it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing lap times so much quicker than we were seeing last week at Belgium, 30 plus seconds quicker. So you can get a second run, and sometimes if you're feeling like you're going to qualify a bit lower down the order, it might be worth getting a second run on your tyres if you do feel like that is the best thing for you to do. Casper's just coming through the middle sector now. Another one of the drivers who had his best result of the season last time around. The winner here last season was Timon, actually, I believe, took the win in season 26 around Holland. Blizzard in 2nd and Christmas in 3rd. So if we get Blizzard and Christmas, maybe they can be some drivers we expect to see heading towards the top of the order then. Casper just coming through these final couple of corners now. Does it look like he's going to go challenging Just and Wilson towards the top of the order? We'll have to wait and see as he heads towards the line. 7th position for now on a 108.211. CRG Benjamin just coming now, just about to head through the 1st sector of this lap. It's actually quite a long 1st sector here compared to the final few. It's always just invalidated coming through turn 8 and 9. That is one of the few parts on this circuit where it is actually possible to invalidate. Quite an old-fashioned circuit, despite making a return to Formula 1. There's a lot of grass and gravel, so you won't see as many track limit penalties around here as you would at some other tracks.
Yeah, it's certainly a unique circuit just for how quick it is, even though it is very, very kind of closed in and a bit tight. There's a car on its outlap just coming past Benjamin. I believe that is our debutant for tonight of Schumacher. I think we'd have to follow along with him on his lap. He's just coming through turn 13 at the moment to begin up on his run. So coming through, opening up the DRS, sticking to the left-hand side to keep the best line in towards turn number 1. We'll see him braking as late as he can, just about at the 50-meter board, if I'm not mistaken. Running it nice and tidily. As a car coming out of the pit lane just in front of him. That's a McLaren of Wilson Hughes. He's got to get out of the way, and he's done that quite nicely. He might have put Schumacher off ever so slightly, but up until towards the S's section, here comes the Haas driver on his debut qualifying session in PSGL through the really centerpiece of this circuit, turn number 7, beautifully taken. Duncan getting off to the right hand side in towards turn number 8, where Benjamin invalidated on his run. Here he comes. He's done that nice and tidily. Now through in towards turn number 10 to open up the DRS this time by. There it is now. It's going on to one of the really only overtaking positions on this circuit, breaking it just before the curb, and now to one of the slowest portions of the track. You're losing about you're going about 100 kilometers per hour now, accelerating up through the gears in towards turn number 13. This has been a lap of this circuit from Schumacher. Not seeing any purple sectors from him on the Taz, but possibly it could be a strong time from him. We'll see him crossing the line here, and he goes into 11th position. Really could be actually a good place to start on this track.
Yeah, it could be indeed. If you start in the top 10, you've really not got much choice other than to go for a soft-hard strategy. If you start outside the top 10, you might be able to make a soft-medium or a medium-soft work, just having that freshness in the tyres. I know we're supposed to be unbiased as commentators, but part of me really wants Schumacher to do well, because a tiny part of me wants to be able to commentate on a race and say Schumacher wins. That's all.
I've got respect that he is, of course, widely considered to be one of the greatest drivers of all time, and for good reason, of course. Many championships coming his way. I believe Waters, he's in the third sector. I think he's pulling into the pit lane. There's a Red Bull car invalid at the final part of the circuit, which means that Blizzard will be the next driver to cross the line here. It doesn't seem like he's purple anywhere, but he is certainly improving, so he could see himself up the order. If he does find maybe a 10th in here, he can see himself right up into the upper reaches of the top 10, keeping it to the right hand side. He's run out of ERS right on the line, and it's only 12th position. I think these drivers need to be a bit strategic on their laps with the ERS usage, just based on the fact that it's really easy to derate across the line.
Yeah, it is indeed. Wilson's derating across the line now. Is that going to stop him taking pole position? Not for now. 107.890 for him. Used maybe looks as though he's got a tiny bit more VRS, but decides to dive it into the pits. Didn't find a lot of time in the middle sector there. Christmas, his first lap, good enough for 10th place. We've got one of the Ferraris heading towards the line now. That is Mish. I think he stays in 11th position. Recon, fresh from getting Alpha Tower, his first point of the season last time around. He is currently in 7th position. So we're seeing a few more times being set now. Young Power heading towards the line, and he actually decides to dive into the pits. It's quite a short pit lane around here, but it is quite an awkward pit lane, especially that pit exit. It's very easy to put a wheel over the white line, and it could well be one of those long evenings for the stewards where they're getting quite a few reports about that.
Yeah, it's a really, as you say, it is so awkward through there, and it is definitely easy to cut across the pit entry and exit line. So I think, yeah, you're right about the stewards going to be a little bit busy tonight, but it's not a very long pit lane. You're only losing about 14 seconds in the pit lane, of course, as a couple more drivers finishing up on their runs. I believe one of them, the winner of the Singapore Grand Prix, Mish, is on a lap at the moment. He's just invalidated right as he was about to finish up on the run through turn 13, and he was improving on his lap as well, so I don't think he'll be too happy about that one.
No, his teammate was improving as well. Simo's only 200ths up at the moment. He's having a pretty decent qualifying session, doesn't need to find much time to get himself maybe even onto the front row of the grid. Will LG getting well out of the way. You do not want to be giving anyone an intentional slipstream or blocking them. Both will find yourself getting a penalty. Can Simo get into the 107s? No, he can't. Does manage to get ahead of Midnight, though, onto that second row of the grid. 3 thousandths behind Duncan. The entire grid separated by about 6.5 tenths at the moment, with the man second in the championship currently top of the grid, and his teammate who's leading the championship currently in last place. CRG Gamer knows he needs to move up, knows he needs to make a bit of a recovery after what happened last time around. Most of the drivers are in the pits then, or on out laps. We've got Casper and Ash on a hot lap, 8 minutes to go. Wilson, Hughes, Duncan. Top 3 from the last race. Top 3 in qualifying so far. And we've had 4 different winners so far in the first 4 races. Do you think now things will settle down, or maybe could we make it 5 out of 5?
Definitely think we could potentially see the 5 out of 5, but I would not be surprised at all if we did see a repeat winner in Wilson Hughes. He just really looks geared in at this point in the season. His spell of bad luck really is over at the moment, I would say. Hopefully I've not jinxed him in any stretch of the mile, but on a run at the moment is Casper himself in 10th position at the moment on a 108.2, where he's quickest through the second sector by around about a 10th. Actually, he wasn't quickest in sector 1. He was only a little bit off of what Wilson did on his lap, but now picking up a slight bit of a slipstream from the Racing Point car in front of him. Casper to the line. He does a time only 5 thousandths slower than Wilson Hughes, but I don't think that time will be standing there for long, because Hughes on a lap at the moment, he's quickest through sector 1.
Yeah, he was quickest through Sector 1 on his previous run. Just made a slight mistake through Sector 2, and it almost looked as though Casper maybe got a bit of a slide on coming out of the penultimate corner there, I think, trying to avoid invalidated. So it could well have been an improvement for him. Used to gain down in the middle sector, but he's still up on his personal best. He's going to need a mighty final couple of corners here, I think, if he wants to get back onto the front row of the grid, and that is a bit too mighty through there. He has invalidated, unfortunately for him. CRG Gamer now coming towards the end of his lap. He's a 10th up on his personal best. That'll still leave him languishing quite a long way down the order. Another driver to find a lot of time in Sector 1, not so much in Sector 2. You do need a lot of commitment and a lot of confidence that the tyres are going to grip as you're trying to brake and turn through that middle sector of the circuit. And CRG Gamer goes up into 12th position. Now we've got Blizzard. I think he's heading towards the finish line. He's improving ever so slightly, but Wilson's still on top, and Casper, he didn't have too bad of a race last week, and he'll be fairly happy if he stays there in second.
Yeah, he did. He picked up a nice amount of points, if I do recall correctly. It was actually pretty tidy from the Mercedes driver. He has got a new teammate as well in Midnight. Of course, he was racing with Mercedes last week. Matthijs has left the league since Austria. But I was just watching Wilson Hughes there, and he's not happy whatsoever. He got slide coming out of turn number 10, and he just completely ruined his lap. He was only a little bit up on his previous best, just about by 5 thousandths of a second, but that could have been all the difference. Nevertheless, he's going to probably either go again. I think he might actually be going again on this. I wouldn't be surprised, or he'll just pull into the pit lane and go fit on a new set of tyres and then go again.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Samuel Bean was improving, winner, of course, of race 1 of the season, and still in with a chance of leading the championship at the end of the race. Only a couple of points off the top, but he has invalidated. Recon looks as though he's backing off at the moment, so we're seeing a few mistakes starting to creep in from some of these drivers. Young Power and Mish have set some pretty good laps. Young Power obviously only in his second race of the season after moving up from F2 for the Belgian Grand Prix, replacing Lee Findlay. He's in 6th. Mish, our winner in Singapore, currently in 3rd position. Wouters dives into the pits. It's all getting a bit quiet out on track all of a sudden. A lot of drivers invalidating after I said track limits wouldn't be a massive problem around here, but there we go. Seems like they are struggling a bit in qualifying. Let's see what Simo can do, though, through the first sector. In the other Ferrari, he's about a 10th up at the moment. Quite wide, though, through turn 8. That might cost him a bit of time. You really do need to attack the curb through that corner, but make sure you don't go over the inside part, because that will unsettle the car.
Yeah, he is just currently. My camera's a bit glitched at the moment, so I'm stuck on board with Christmas. There we are. I'm back on board with Simo. Christmas is actually on a run at the moment. Both of these drivers not improving through the second sector on their previous best time. Christmas has just invalidated on his laps. That leaves Simo, the lone driver, on a run at the moment. We'll see him coming across the line. Never mind, he's coming into the pit lane, so he's not too happy with that lap, and that leaves everyone in the box. It's the calm before the storm. We've got just about 3 minutes left to go in the session. I see activity down in the pit lane. It's the McLaren team going out first. That is Wilson Hughes, the pole sitter. Bold of him to be going out first. Maybe he's trying to put in 2 runs on this one set of the tyres to really confirm pole if he does make a mistake, but he'll be the first one on an outlap. The 2 AlphaTauris follow suit behind him. Will LG just behind the McLaren car, and then Recon right behind his teammates. So now drivers will be preparing for their final runs, and they'll be putting it really going full beans just to put it where as high as they can on the grid.
Yeah, they will indeed. If you can nip down to the kitchen, anyone, and get yourself a drink in about 40 or 50 seconds, now might be the time to doing it, seeing as we've got no one on a hot lap. Wilson just going around, wanting to make sure that he's got clear traffic, wanting to make sure that he's got no one in the way, and if he makes a mistake on his first lap, he will have enough time to get a second run in. He'll probably be a bit tight to do a cool-down lap and then another run after that if he wanted to, but most of the cars are now starting to head out on track. Wilson, Casper, Mish, Benjamin, Just, your top 5 at the moment. Benjamin and Just actually on identical times, with Mish only 4 thousandths ahead of them. Those top 5 all separated by a 10th of a second. The only drivers to get into the 107s at the moment, but let's see what the reigning champion can do then. Second in the championship all of a sudden. McLaren are looking really good for that constructors, but still quite a few races to go after this one. France is where the drivers will be going next week for the start of the second half of the season. See what Wilson can do through sector 1. Goes a bit deep into turn 3, but the banking does allow you to take that line and get away with it and get your power down on this run. Sweeping through these mini S sections through 4, 5 and 6 into turn 7. There's a racing point quite a bit ahead of him, so it might distract him visually, but shouldn't really have an effect on the car at the moment. And Wilson 17 thousandths down in that first sector, just runs a tiny bit wide over the curb, and he has backed off the lap. So that's why he went out earlier, because if things weren't going to plan, you can back off, save a bit of ERS and go again.
It seems like a lot of drivers not making the best first sectors that they can do. Both AlphaTauris are down on their runs, as are the Alfa Romeo cars, as Ashpress was improving, not anymore. I believe Petrox will be the first driver to actually put in a final representative time. He can't do a cool-down lap at this point. He's just not got enough time for it. So if he really wants to do 2 laps, he's got to go back-to-back, and that is just not going to work with the amount of ERS that you use around this lap. Not many braking zones to properly put in a full-on cooldown lap, and now there is 13th position for Petrox. More drivers, though, improving on their laps. I believe Waters, one of the only drivers in a sea of cars that have invalidated or messed up. He's going to get caught out here by Euster. That was a bit touch and go for the Alfa Romeo driver. Second position in the last race, but he did get out of the way just in the nick of time as Waters crossing the line. Samuel Bean actually does a 107.8. He comes out of nowhere. Waters into P12.
Yeah, Waters into P12. Samuel Bean fastest of anyone in the final sector. Misha's improved. Well, I think he's actually stayed on the same lap. He was 100th slower in the end, despite improving in the final two sectors. So he goes into fourth place. Wilson Hughes on another lap this time. Recon's broken his front wing, so he's in the pits. He's going to be the first driver that is finished for this session. We all seen a few more timing changes down the lower part of the order. I think it's going to be Benjamin, first man across the line then in this session. He improved in the first sector and he has backed off his lap in the end. One of the Mercedes comes in behind. That's Midnight up into fourth place. So it's currently the two Mercedes, third and fourth on the grid. Wilson Hughes is improving ever so slightly. He just needs to match his third sector to get pole position, and he hasn't done it. Just misses out on the end. He is in second for now. Young Power heads towards the finish line. What's it going to be for him? He takes provisional pole position, 107.862. Will crosses the line. He's in 18th position. We've got the two Alfa Romeos heading towards the line now. Duncan, is he going to improve his time? He takes provisional pole position. Eustace is going even quicker though, and he takes it off his teammate. 107.770 though for Eustace. Anyone else trying to improve at the moment? I think Schumacher, he's heading towards the final corner now. Casper goes up into fourth place. We'll see what the Haas driver can do. He's dived into the pits as well, as has the Renault behind him. I think we've got Mish still on the lap, but he has invalidated. I'm just trying to see if anyone else is going on a push lap now. It looks like Gamer is calming down, and I think that could well be everyone now who's setting a push lap, and it is a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo, used from Duncan, with Young Power third in only his second race in the top tier.
It's a front row lockout for the double Dutch Alfa Romeo lineup. Those two are going to be really happy with their times. Only half a not half a tenth, a quarter of a tenth separating those two drivers. Those two are going to be celebrating tonight, and a track that is very difficult to actually make an overtake on. These two, they're in a very good position. They're poised to take a possible 1-2, but that is, of course, unless Young Power, Casper, all those guys behind him, Samuel Bean and Wilson as well, they're not too far off the pace. In fact, I believe Samuel Bean and Casper did the exact same lap time to the nearest thousandth of a second. So just shows how close the margins are in PSGL F1. They both did a 107.870 on their run. So it's just crazy how close this grid is. But that is, wow, what a qualifying session.
Yeah, what a qualifying. We saw, obviously, Samuel Bean was fastest at one, but he ended up in fifth behind the two Alfa Romeos of Houston Duncan. First and second, Young Power is third. Casper's best qualifying of the season in fourth. Samuel Bean fifth. Wilson in sixth. Midnight seventh. Mish eighth. Benjamin ninth. Suso rounding out the top 10. Simo, he's only just over a quarter of a second off pole position. That is only good enough for 11th, but he will get a fresh choice of tyres. Blizzard is 12th. Schumacher 13th on his debut in the Haas. Volters 14th. Recon in 15th. Petrux reserving in the Haas is 16th. Then it is Gamer, Will LG, Christmas, and Ashbest, the final runner then in this session, just over half a second behind. That's fairly close around here, and suggests we could be in for maybe some DRS trains, because there are two DRS zones on this circuit. We've said it's difficult to overtake. Strategy is going to play a crucial part in this race.
Absolutely, but for these drivers, they just have to really gear themselves in. They've got to forget about qualifying and just deal with wherever they're starting on the grid. There are some pretty quick drivers that are not really represented by their lap time at this circuit. I know a lot of the drivers don't really enjoy the track, but it's looking like it on circuit. It's not the best weather. It's a little bit cloudy up above, but I don't think we'll see a threat of rain. We've just got to wait for these drivers to lock in their strategies, and we'll be going for the formation lap.
I was going to say, if that's a little bit cloudy, I don't think it's too bad whatsoever around the circuit. It's definitely t-shirt weather, I think, for everyone around this track. 36 laps, obviously, around Zandvoort. The hardest tyres that Pirelli bring to here, C1, C2, C3. And as we've already talked about, if you're starting in the top 10 on a set of soft tyres, almost certainly you are going to have to go for a set of the hards. If you're outside of the top 10, you might be able to make a medium soft work over soft medium and be a bit quicker than those on the hards at the end of the race. It is completely up to you as to what you are going to go for around this historic track in Netherlands, Zandvoort. 14 turns, quite a few bankings, 2 DRS zones, which are going to be crucial for any chances of overtaking, really. And as we see there, it is actually quite a flat circuit, not as much undulation as you tend to get on some of the classic tracks that we sometimes see in F1. There are the 2 cars, the 2 Alfa Romeos leading us away, and they are the tyres that everyone has gone for. Quite a mix, actually, outside the top 10. Valtters, Gamer, Will, and Ash on the hards. Everyone else outside the top 10 going for the medium tyres, so their aim is just going to be to stick with those on the softs when the DRS becomes active.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to try and opt for a medium to soft strategy. I'm not seeing that the medium to hard will really be the ideal strategy. I think the drivers that have opted for the hard compound of tyres, they're not feeling too confident with how long that they can take those mediums to then go onto a set of the softs. But I guess that is all just up to really how they're feeling. They do know a lot more than us, but what circuit this is. 36 laps around here, embedded in the sand dunes, which is why it is. There's actually a lot of sand. I do like that the Codemasters F1 team, they've actually added quite a bit of sand just sprinkled around the circuit, because of course this was built in and amongst the sand dunes. So yeah, really love to see that touch has been allowed. But yeah, coming through to finish up the third sector, they're going to be getting going very shortly, and we will see 36 laps around here.
Yeah, let us know who you think is going to take the victory. Are we going to get a 5th different winner this season? None of the top 4 have taken a win so far this season. In fact, the second row of the grid, Young Power and Casper. Young Power's not had any points. Casper's not had a podium. Championship leader down in 17th place. Wilson Hughes knows he's got a good chance to take the lead off his teammate, starting in 6th position at the moment, but he's nearer the midfield, and it will all squeeze up towards turn 1 on that first lap. It can get very tight around here on lap 1 of the race. Ash Best, final car coming in, said he just ran out of ERS on his hot laps, and running out of ERS is a problem around here. If you go down below 10%, it's going to take you a while to get it back up again, as we get a lovely camera shot of the back of the grid. And there we go, the lights are coming on here at Zandvoort. We've got 5 lights. We're on the way for the Dutch Grand Prix. What are the starts like? Hughes just covering off Duncan ever so slightly on the run down towards turn 1. Hughes in the lead of this race. He's getting a bit squeezed in the background there. Samuel B trying to go round the outside of Casper and Young Power. I think he might just managed to get one of those. I don't think he'll be able to get both of them. Still Casper battling with Young Power, who's got a bit deep there, and that might allow Midnight to try and get alongside his teammate here. Wilson trying to fight in all this battle as well, but it's still Hughes leading. Duncan second, Young Power third. Wilson is just about trying to hang on from Midnight here. He might get squeezed a bit on the inside. Nearly spins Midnight off in the gravel, but they managed to recover, and that's Mish thinking, I'll have a bit of that. And now he's made contact with Wilson and drops down the order. We said things are slightly tight on the first lap of this race here, but Houston Duncan not having to worry about that. First and second, Young Power is in third. We'll have a quick look at the position changes on this first lap of the race. Mish obviously losing 3. Christmas has had an absolutely fantastic start for him. He's gone up 5 places, and he tries to defend from Recon to make sure that it stays as 5 places on that set of the medium tyres, of course, from the start of this race. But a perfect start from Houston Duncan, taking the lead of this race. And gotta say, Wilson, Mish, and probably Midnight as well. Yes, Mish lost a lot of places, but lucky not to pick up any damage.
Yeah, only 1 bit of damage amongst us drivers. It's Recon with 12% to his front wing on the right-hand side. I don't think that's going to pose too much of a kind of a dampener on his spirits so far. He hasn't come into the pit lane to replace that front wing, so he's going to stick to his strategy. But the dream start has unfolded for the 2 Alfa Romeo cars. Young Power falling off the back of them. He's feeling the pressure from Samuel Bean and Casper. Midnight with a really good start in 6th position. The 2 Mercedes 5th and 6th at the moment. That is the kind of performances they need to save their season. It's not been the best start for the Silver Arrows, but Wilson Hughes still closing up to the back of the I think he's Taiwanese driver of Midnight, and yeah, he's just got to keep his wits about him to keep that McLaren car behind.
Yeah, yes, indeed. You can see Wilson following Midnight at this moment. Knows he can't afford to go too hard because he's got Benjamin, Suso, Simo And we have got that situation where the entire track, the entire drivers, all 20 of them, are going to be within DRS range of each other. Used is probably going to be the only car not to get DRS, although Young Power is nearly falling out of that 1 second window, so that might give Samuel Bean the chance he needs, possibly into the chicane at turn 11 and 12, most likely though into turn 1 next time around. So it's still Houston Duncan in the lead of this race. Duncan slightly quicker on that lap with the benefit of the slipstream, of course, using a bit of ERS out of turn 3 just to get that little bit of electrical energy, just to give yourself that boost through that flat out section as we now drop down a gear into turn 7. He'll be losing a bit of grip in the dirty air. That's why you see cars quite often stay about half a second behind. It's about as close as you can get before you really start struggling in the dirty air of another car, which is a situation Mish might be in now, because Schumacher has gone very deep into turn number 9, and Mish goes for a move. That was always closing. Christmas and Blizzard have made contact as well. 3 cars facing the wrong way coming into turn 10, and Mish wasn't really alongside far enough for me to be entitled to space in that corner.
I don't think he was too smart going for that move. If I'm completely honest, that was a gap that was always going to close for Mish, and it has resulted in him having severe wing damage, and it has also somewhat ruined the races of 2 other drivers, Blizzard and Christmas, now both way back from the rest of the grid. Christmas with a big chunk of wing damage as well, making contact with that Ferrari car. They're both going to pull into the pit lane. Hopefully neither of them retire and they just keep going and see what happens. Anything and everything can happen in PSGL F1, so I'm really hoping that those two adapt their strategies ideally, and they're both on a set of the hard compounded tyres, and they're just going to try and stretch them as long as they can. It seems like Young Power has just about kept DRS range from the 2 leaders, so that is going to really hamper Samuel Bean, I would say, because he's been closing up to Young Power for the last couple of laps, and now he's actually beginning to lose a slight bit of time, so probably frustration settling in for the one-time race winner in this season.
Yeah, Samuel Bean fairly happy at the moment. He's ahead of Wilson. He's ahead, long way ahead of Game. That's over 2 rivals closest to him in the championship. He is ahead of at the moment, but he will want to work his way up the order. What that incident with Schumacher and Mish has done is created a massive gap in the field. Obviously, Blizzard's dropped a long way back and he's lucky to not get any damage, but you can see on board with Recon here, you can just about make out in the distance Schumacher up ahead of him. 3-second gap, and that means he's not got DRS. And that means Valters and Petrox are all over the back of him, fancying a move. This is one of the closest battles out on track at the moment. 12th, 13th and 14th place. Valters getting a penalty removed last time out. He did finish in 9th place out on track. Got 5 seconds removed from his time and got 7 for his first points of the season for the man who was 3rd in the championship last year. It's fair to say it's not been an ideal start for the Renault squad this season, and definitely not in this race. Valters down in 13th, Christmas in last position at the moment with that broken front wing, probably hoping alongside with Mish for a safety car or something to try and get themselves back into this race. Houston Duncan just looking very calm at the moment, because Young Power's not able to really get close to him. Samuel Bean's just about hanging within DRS range as well, and it's exactly what we expected to happen in the first stages of this race. It's too early to go for any risky moves, really. Everyone's just happy to sit in this train.
Yeah, you can see Duncan, he doesn't want to attack his teammate into the first corner. Neither of these guys going to make up any points for going for the move in terms of the constructors. They're simply just swapping positions. So he's going to stick back for as long as he can. Probably try not waste his resources too much. Both of these guys pretty conservative with the power usage at the moment, which is good to see. They're just trying to keep it nip and tuck and nice and tidy. They're doing a splendid job so far. Young Power comfortably though out of the DRS range of these two as well, so they've managed to pull that gap ever so slightly to the VRT driver in the Red Bull car. Could push him back the way of Samuel Bean, who has also lost quite a bit of time to the Italian man. So in 4th position, the Spaniard opening the DRS, which Young Power does not have the luxury of doing, so it's going to allow for the Williams driver to close up ever so slightly to the Aston Martin Red Bull racing car. He's about 6 tenths off this time by, so I don't think he'll be going for any moves into the first corner. Potentially Casper could have a look in. He's using up some of his overtake, and he might actually want to go for the move if he is brave and bold enough, but he has turned off his ERS. He's now flicked it back on to overtake. He's closing up heavily to the cars. Oh, there's a yellow flag, and I think it might be Recon off.
Yeah, it is. Recon facing the wrong way on the banking. Quite a narrow part of the circuit and quite awkward to get away from there on that banking. He's gone off the circuit. He has got a slight bit of front wing damage, and I think he might now think those tyres are a bit ruined. I might as well try and fix it. I've taken them as long as I want to with the damage. Get a front wing changed, put the hard set of tyres on, and see how long this race goes. Doesn't look like he will repeat his point scoring antics out of last time around. Duncan still hounded his teammate then. Lap 7 of this race. The top 3 as they were at the start of the race. Casper and Samuel Bean have swapped around, as have Midnight and Wilson. Biggest winner now is actually Ashbest all of a sudden, and that's just because of the problems others' cars have had. He's still last out of everyone who's had a clean race at this moment in time, just trying to hang in there. Got so close to points last time around, it just didn't work out for him. And now that Young Power's lost for DRS, you can really see what effect it is having. He's nearly 2 seconds now behind our lead duo.
Yeah, and I think Samuel Bean is noticing that vulnerability of the Red Bull car, and he's been closing up the last couple of laps. He's not close enough to go for a ascend in towards the first corner, but you can see how much more confident he is really on the brakes in comparison to Young Power, and just the lines he's taking. He seems a lot more fluid with his driving. Petrox and Waters have swapped over positions. I wonder where Casper can actually find himself in this battle as well, because he's closing up to the back of Samuel Bean, and he's going very committed in towards the famous turn number 7. This is going to be very close, but it's bold, it's brave, and now he's sending it up the inside line. What a move from Casper there.
You don't get into esports without knowing a few tricks of the trade. Fantastic move from Casper, sensing an opportunity coming up that hill. I think he used a bit more VRS. That gave him the chance to get alongside Samuel Bean, and once he had his entire car alongside, there was not a lot Samuel Bean could do there in the Williams. So Casper up into 4th position. Could he try and work his way past Young Power? Maybe even make it a VSR 1-2-3 in this race. We'll have to wait and see. Still obviously a long way to go. Still a lot of drivers will have a big say in that. Not least Simo and Schumacher, 10th and 11th, still on the back of this train, going for that alternate strategy. Probably expecting them to come into the pits round about lap 20, lap 21 off the medium tyres, those on the softs. Anything from lap 10, lap 11, we could be seeing those drivers coming to the pits and putting on a set of hard tyres. As you said, Petrox got ahead of Volters now that the Renault didn't have the DRS. It was a fairly straightforward move for Petrox, but he's 5 seconds behind his teammate. It's going to be quite tough to gain a lot from this race, knowing it's only a short track, 2 DRS straights, of course, and he's just not getting that benefit down the straight at this moment in time. But Casper, absolutely fantastic move there. Whether Samuel Bean made a slight mistake coming out of turn 3, it didn't look like he did, and by the time he realised what Casper was doing, it was too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, I think Casper just decided, you know what, I don't want to sit behind you anymore, and he went for the move, and well, fair play to him. They kept it very tidy between the pair of them, so there was only minimal contact at the apex, which was really bound to happen, going for a move at turn number 7, but neither of them got damaged, neither of them went off the circuit, and I think that Samuel Bean will be probably quite happy that that move actually went as clean as it did, but I think he's also struggling at the moment for pace, because he's dropping off the back of the Mercedes drivers. The first 3-second time as he comes out, and there's the first driver into the pit lane. Benjamin coming in very early. You did say at lap number 10 is when really they are going to start to make their pit stops onto the hard tyres. The Racing Point guy, he's the first in, going for the undercut on everyone here on the set of the white wall hard tyres. He's going right to the end. 26 laps is going to be difficult on them, but Benjamin, he's got to keep his wits about him here.
I mean, I can see why he's done it. He was at the back of this train on the set of soft tyres. It makes a lot of sense to get yourself out of it, get some free air, and see what you can do on the undercut, because even if your tyres are struggling, we've seen how hard it is to pull off an overtake around here. I wonder as well, I think Samuel Bean might be coming in on this lap. He looked as though he was losing traction a few times on that past lap. You can just feel a bit of hesitancy there. You can almost see it on the steering wheel, not wanting to be too aggressive, straightening up the wheel as he puts the throttle down. Doesn't want to end up spinning those rear tyres up and giving someone else a chance to maybe move further ahead of him. I wonder if we'll see one of the Alfa Romeos come in, because we know double stacks don't really work on this game. And Duncan in the end, he's going to come into the pits. Used staying out for another lap. Young Power in as well. Quite a few cars diving their way into the pits, as I think for the first time this season that AWS graphic comes up at just the right time, and we'll see where Benjamin comes out relative to all of these drivers. He was behind pretty much all of these that have come into the pits. He's making his way down the pit lane now. He's going to jump Wilson. He's going to be pretty close with Midnight here on the exit of turn 1, and I think he's just about going to come out ahead, and that is why Benjamin went for that earlier stop. He's jumped he's jumped Midnight, he's jumped Wilson, of course. Duncan, still the lead car out of those that have pitted, and that just proves the hard tyres are pretty quick. Me setting the fastest lap of the race on 6-lap-old hards. Surely now, well, I was going to say surely we'll see the top 4 coming, but both of the Williams have decided to stay out. That might be bad news for, you'd imagine, Suso.
Yeah, it just depends who wants to come to the pit lane first. I'd imagine that the top 2 are definitely going to come in, but the gap between Duncan and Used previously was about 0.4 of a second, and I think Duncan, he's probably found that time on this lap. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out relative to his teammate who's just pulled into the pit lane now. Duncan currently coming through turn number 13. He is caught in a little bit of a train with some of the drivers who haven't made their stops yet. They started on this compound of tyres, and he's actually going to get a nice tow down the straight from Ash Best here. Both BSR drivers in their own right, but I think Duncan is actually going to jump his teammate here. He's coming through turn number 1. Used just exiting the pit lane now. Duncan in the lead of the Grand Prix, and I think Blizzard hasn't pitted yet, but he is just coming out right behind him, and could cause some issues. I don't think he'll want to attack the Alfa Romeo car, as there's yellow flags through sector 1. Who is it?
Samuel Bean. Samuel Bean
Wilson.
facing the wrong way.
Oh, it's Samuel Bean.
Yeah, I think it's Samuel Bean. I don't know whether Wilson was involved, but I think it was Samuel Bean actually who got involved on his own, and Wilson almost had to slow down to avoid any contact with the stricken Williams. You can't always trust the ghosting system, as Crispus, the only driver to have picked up any penalty, now picks up 6 seconds. It's really not going well for him this race, and you can probably say this season, but Samuel Bean needs to be careful because those rear hard tyres are going to be pretty hot now. Needs to cool them down if he wants to maybe get to the end of this race, making sure he doesn't spin out. Great for Duncan though. He might be in this train, but he's got ahead of his teammate and used ahead of Blizzard as well. And Blizzard's going to be staying out, if he's going medium soft, probably for another 8 or 9 laps. This could really allow those 2 Alfa Romeos to just escape.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Blizzard can hold up Casper pretty heavily. I think I've got a bit of a firm grasp on what has happened between Wilson and Samuel Bean. Wilson with a lot of damage to his front wing. He's going to be coming into the pit lane, not speeding in, which I do think means that he is going to change that front wing. He's gone to a set of the medium compound of tyres, I believe, to go to the end of the race. So I think Samuel Bean must have spun right in front of him or something, and then Wilson really had nowhere to go, and it unfortunately led to him getting heavy wing damage. He had about 62% on the left-hand side of his front wing. So yeah, it's just really unfortunate for him, and what could have been a race where he took the championship lead, well, that's looking very unlikely now. I
know he said a few races ago he was hoping his fortunes had changed. He's also said as well, he's not here to make friends. I don't think Samuel Bean's going to be on his Christmas card list anytime soon. If that is the case, just a bit of bad luck maybe, or contact between the two of them. Medium tyres for Wilson. He's going to have to take them 24 laps. That is quite a long way to take them. Suso finally comes into the pits. I wonder if Suso's going to think about maybe going for the medium tyres as well. Just worth trying something different. This will drop him though a long way down the order from where he was earlier. He is going to be ahead of his teammate, who obviously had that spin, as Used and Ash battling through turn 2 there. Used thinking, right, I'm fed up of being stuck behind Ash. You might be my VSR teammate, but you're on older tyres and I'm going to make my way through. So Used up into 8th. Duncan has worked his way past Ash and past Will LG as well. So Duncan now up into 6th position, and they're starting to put traffic between these cars. And you've got to say, at the moment, it's advantage Duncan. Yes, he's got 1 lap older tyres. He shouldn't have a problem getting those towards the end of the race though, and he's currently about 1.5 seconds ahead of his teammate.
And of course, he's on the C1 hard compound of tyres, which are the most durable compound in the entire array of the 5 different tyres that they do bring to races. Well, they bring 3 to races, but this is the most durable of the entire set. So realistically, they should be getting to the end on pretty much any track in a 50% race. He's caught up to the back of Gamer and Waters as well. Both of these guys on the hard compound of tyres as well as him. These guys started the race on this set. So I'd imagine as... I think that might have been a bit of a mistake from Simo because Schumacher's just blitzed it right past him in towards turn number 2 and turn 3 there.
Yeah, so Schumacher leading the race in the Haas. That's not something Martin Brundle and David Croft will be saying anytime soon, I don't think. Simo in second place, Petrux in third. These drivers all on the medium tyres. And we've said you lose about 15, 16 seconds in the pits. So if Schumacher pitted this time around and went for the hards, which we do sometimes see drivers do, but it is very unlikely, he would come out behind Suso quite a long way down the order. Christmas retires from the race, was the only retiree last time out at the Belgian Grand Prix, and it is another DNF for Christmas. He got points in Singapore, yet to see the checkered flag since that race. It's fair to say his season going from bad to worse there. Duncan still stuck behind Gamer, and it's not like Gamer, I don't think, is trying ultra hard to defend here. It's just, we're in a DRS train, despite the advantage of 11 lap fresher tyres, it's going to be extremely hard to make an overtake.
Yeah, and it's very difficult also to charge up the battery around this circuit. I think Joost is going to make quick work of Will LG, so now there's no traffic in between Joost and his teammate Duncan in front of him, who's really got the short end of the stick now with the traffic. Gamer not really doing anything to heavily defend. He's just following his line and sticking in behind Waters. I don't think he wants to actually lose too much time to the Renault car, but I think Duncan going to do what Casper did on Samuel Bean at the beginning of the race. Gamer is defending this one, and Duncan, the avenue just does not open. No window of opportunity really to leap through. He's still hanging on to the back of the McLaren car, probably getting a bit frustrated at this point because Joost almost within the DRS range of his teammate now.
Yeah, look at the difference in ERS here. Duncan, 26%. Joost has got about 10% more. Gamer's nearly got a full battery here. His is nice and charged up, and I think he's just using it out of some of the slower corners because that makes perfect sense. He's got so much more than the cars behind him. There's not a lot Duncan's going to be able to do here, and this could really make things awkward for them. They are about now 3 seconds ahead of Casper, who is still stuck behind Blizzard. He's actually not using a lot of ERS, and we have got that net VSR 1, 2, 3, even though they are currently 6th, 7th and 11th. It is Schumacher leading the race still onto lap number 17. Simo in behind. These two doing a pretty decent job on the medium tyres. Quite a bit of a gap then to Petrux, Volters, Gamer, and then the train starts what the leaders are in. Duncan still stuck behind him, but now that he's shown his hand into turn 7, it's pretty much a one-trick move. Gamer's going to be very wise to that, and you can see here Duncan not close enough to maybe have a go this time around. Turn 11, he's going to struggle, I think, unless Gamer makes a mistake. And with the ERS, he's going to struggle into turn 1. I really can't see, unless the McLaren driver makes a mistake, where Duncan's going to get this move done in the next few laps.
This is just why drivers don't really seem to like this circuit, because it is very difficult to overtake, and if you catch traffic, it really does hurt your race, and that is really evidence, the proof in the pudding, if you could say, because Duncan, he's completely stuck behind him. I don't think he's even trying to attack him at this point now, because he's just going to hurt his tyres more. So I think he's probably going to try settling to a rhythm in this race, maybe try and defend from his teammate ever so slightly. These two pretty similar on the ERS levels, and I'd assume he's just going to try and wait for a mistake from Gamer possibly to come out, or maybe him losing time to Waters, which does seem to be apparent at the moment. Only a little bit of time is being lost to the Renault car, but it is just enough for Duncan to maybe get a little bit more confident coming into the next couple of laps.
Yeah, I think Duncan, he's doing the right thing here. He's not using a lot of ERS, and I think I said in my race on Thursday, if there's any track where I'd want a zero ERS mode added back into the races, it is Zandvoort. Once you start losing it, it takes a long, long time to build it back up again, and Duncan, that's probably why he's not going for it, just saving a bit, maybe to defend from his teammate later on in the race, or maybe to go for a move on Gamer if he doesn't come into the pits soon. We're nearly at the halfway point of the race. It is still Schumacher just hanging on from Simo at the moment. These two having their own little battle at the front. Expect to see them coming in the next 2 or 3 laps perhaps for a set of the soft tyres to take them towards the end of the race, and then they might be very rapid indeed. But as we're seeing with Duncan, just because you're so much faster than the car in front doesn't really mean you can make an overtake around here. Didn't get the best of exits coming out of turn number 14 and dropping out of the slipstream there. That suggests to me maybe he's overheating his tyres, maybe overheating his engine as well, because once the engine reaches about 120 plus degrees centigrade, you don't really get a big boost from using rich mode. So trying to get some fresh air into that engine, so when he does have enough ERS and maybe a bit of spare fuel, he can really use all the tools at his disposal and go for this overtake.
I actually do think you're right that his engine probably is overheating. He's using a lot of rich mixture, and that's because he's running about 2.5 extra kilograms, extra laps of fuel in that Alfa Romeo car. So he's just trying to run a little bit more rich mode, just so we can get that extra straight line speed on the straightaway. And you can see he's closing up to Gamer, not using any of his battery to go for the move. He's now eclipsed use on the amount of ERS that he's got. He's got 48% use, just on 48 behind him, as now he's closer to Gamer. I wonder if he's going to try and opt for the move, beginning at lap number 20, where he just doesn't want to sit behind him anymore. Probably staying in all this dirty air is not going to be helping him, but Gamer just seemingly exits the corners better, and it's going to help him. But I think Water's going to the inside line and towards turn number 1. He's made that move stick on Petrox. Those medium tyres on that Haas car really going to be feeling, I think he'll be feeling him at the moment. They'll be a bit shot at this point in time. That could push Gamer back into Duncan, who is certainly getting right up to the rear of the McLaren car. So I think on lap 20, everything's going to start to kick off here.
Yeah, those mediums really starting to look second best now. Unfortunately, we can't tell the tyres on the Haas, but it's 67% on the front left of Simo, and Valtters, he's starting to, you can see he's pulling away from Petrox. He's got the gap below 5 seconds to that lead duo, so they are starting to come into their own, the hard tyres, and maybe if Gamer gets held up behind Petrox, that might be a bit of a chance for Duncan. Further back, Blizzard, he's still in 10th place. He's on his medium tyres. He's still hanging in with Ashton. He's still causing plenty of problems for Casper, Young Power, Midnight, Benjamin, and Suso. The cars behind him, you've got Samuel being 60th, Mish 17th, Wilson and Recon having their own battle for 18th and 19th. Again, one of the McLarens being involved in an incident and then really just trying to see what they can do, staying in the race in case they get any chance of picking up some points later on with a late safety car. And another lap passes by, another turn 1, and it's still Duncan and Hughes stuck behind the McLaren of Gamer, who might now, I think he's going to be starting to hope that Petrox either pits this lap or he can make a move, because this could well drop him outside of the DRS range of Valtters, which would be perfect news for Duncan.
Yeah, he's not helped him whatsoever at this point, and he is going to be very much praying to the F1 gods that Petrox at least doesn't put too much of a fight if he goes for the move at some point, which I don't think he's going to be doing, because he's about 4.5 tenths back from the Haas car, the Italian driver in P4 at the moment on his F1 debut. He's doing a pretty fine job taking these tyres as long as they can and just avoiding trouble, not getting any damage, but he is definitely going to be causing some issues for Gamer. Lap 21 they're on at the moment. Those medium tyres falling off the cliff. They are certainly past their sell-by date, and that is just apparent from the drop-off that he's had in comparison to Waters. He's not pitting this time by. He stayed out another run on lap 22. I think maybe next time by, as Blizzard does pull into the pit lane, so that does suggest that those medium tyres not good whatsoever anymore, and I think they'll start to come into the pits.
Yeah, I think if Simo definitely, if he goes on a bit longer, he's going to be at risk of a puncture. Blizzard gets a speeding penalty in the pit lane as well, and he's going to come out in 16th position. Going to be very tough, I think, for him to pick up any points in this race, because look how close the field is. Top 14 drivers, 9.5 seconds between them at this moment in time. If Gamer picked up a 5-second penalty, let's just say at this moment, that would drop him behind Suso. That would drop him 9 places. We'll see if the field does spread out anymore, but I do doubt it. And they are starting to close up to the lead too, Schumacher and Simo. So I think definitely those on the mediums. Maybe Petrox though, he might be forced out to stay just one more lap, of course, because 4 seconds is not going to make the double stack work. He'll lose a lot more time doing that than he would staying out one extra lap. So that could be more frustration for Duncan and Hughes.
It's we'll just have to see what the two leaders opt to do. Schumacher staying out, Simo pulling into the pit lane, so that does give free reign for Petrox to come in. Waters actually does come in himself, so those hard tyres going to be taken off in for a set of the softs. I would assume for the Renault car it is indeed the red wall tyre, so it's now a Haas 1-2. Never thought I'd be saying that, but Gamer still right behind Petrox. Now Petrox doesn't have DRS, so if Gamer wanted to go for the move, he can do so. And I think these two are fighting for position on track, of course, and they'll make up the ERS in the pit lane. I think it would be wise to actually try and go for a move, especially since his tyres are still in better condition. They're not in great condition, but they are at least better than Petrox. So potentially in towards turn 11, the chicane, where it is possible to make a move. It is difficult because it is a very narrow part of the circuit, but it is still possible to make a move. We'll see if Gamer does opt for the overtake. Petrox holding it defensive to the right hand side, and I don't think he'll go for the overtake.
No, just too far behind there. Simo then coming out as the lead car now on a set of the soft tyres in 12th position. We'll see if he can close up to the back of that pack ahead of him and make any moves. Schumacher then comes into the pits finally off those mediums on lap 23, and Petrox I think realised there, I've got to go on another lap, and he did a little shimmy there, and Gamer senses his opportunity all the way around the outside into turn 1. Petrox is around, there was contact, I think he went on that inside curb, and that does spin you around, so that's cleared Petrox well out of the way of all these drivers. He drops down into 9th position. I was just checking then to see if he's actually got a puncture that caused the spin, but no, he has not. So Gamer now leads this race. Duncan in 2nd position. It was very difficult to see whether it was contact that caused that spin or maybe just Petrox, as I said, hitting that inside curve.
Yeah, I was watching that one there, and I think Wilson Hughes has just spun the car as well through the first corner. So drivers having issues there, but I was on board with Petrox there, and I think Gamer, he turned in just a little bit too tight. I probably didn't expect Petrox to still be there, so I don't think he'll be too happy with how his first race is going, because he's lost out a lot of time now to the driver in front. He's 2.9 seconds off of Suso, and now a driver he was not too far behind, now just 1 second off. And for some reason it actually says on my screen at least that Petrox is in the pit lane. Pulling off to the right hand side is Petrox, and I wonder if he has a puncture on that Renault car, because he's losing a lot of time. What is he doing?
I'm speechless. Like, surely he's got to have a puncture to be... No, I think still his tyres are all looking good. Well, they've got plenty of grass on them, but he'll definitely, I think, be coming into the pits on this lap. So Petrox, any chances of points on his debut going well out the window. Gamer has come into the pits. Will LG, he came in, I think, actually a lap earlier, but he's managed to jump Gamer, and there we go. Petrox does become our 2nd retirement of the race. Things looking a lot more normal then. Everyone has now made their 1 compulsory pit stop. Duncan is leading. Eustace is in 2nd. Casper has pretty much closed up that 2-second gap from earlier on. Then it is Young Power, Midnight, Benjamin, Suso, Simo, who it actually says is in the pits. On my screen, I can confirm that his pit limiter is definitely not on, because he's in 8th place at the moment. Schumacher 9th, Valters in 10th, then Samuel Bean, Blizzard, Ash, Will, Gamer, Niche, Recon, and Wilson. And I think if things stay as they are at the moment, it's going to be pretty close, but Alfa Romeo aren't going to be too far off taking the lead of the championship as things stand, because they're on for a perfect 28 points at the moment. Who's got the fastest lap? It's going to be very tough for them to get the fastest lap of the race, and that is currently Valtteri. So 28 out of a possible 29 for Alfa Romeo. No points whatsoever for McLaren, and it looks very possible that it will stay that way. Blizzard works his way past Samuel Bean into 11th place. He knows he's got to make moves to try and get any points with that penalty. How do you play this then if you're Alfa Romeo? Do you just say, right, we're 1-2 at the moment, that's how we keep things, just make sure Casper doesn't go for a move? Or do you think you're going to think, I've just got slightly fresher tyres than you, and I've got plenty of ERS, we've both got plenty of ERS, I'm going to have the DRS, I might try and take this win?
We've got 10.5 laps left to go in this race, so Joost, if he were to go for a move, I wouldn't expect him to do it in the near future whatsoever. I think the main priority for these guys is maintaining where they are on circuit, because Casper is still right behind them at the moment in 3rd position. Not really a threat though, because of course Joost does have the DRS, which is enough for him to defend from Casper charging behind him. So really, if Casper wanted to go for a move, probably would be unlikely for him, unless he did it in an unorthodox position like he did earlier on in the Grand Prix on Samuel Bean through turn 7, but that doesn't really seem likely as Joost gets close to Duncan. I think if he wanted to go for that move, he'd have certainly gone for it in towards turn 1. So beginning lap 27, just 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Those Alfa Romeo cars, they're going to be working together.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. Yes, Eustace is a racer. Yes, he wants to take the victory here. He said he wants to make amends for what happened last time around. don't think he wants to do anything risky, though, that could end up taking out his teammate. If it was someone else, 100% he's going for this move. But do you really want to go for a bit of a risk on Duncan at the moment, especially knowing that if you get it wrong, Casper, Young Power, Midnight, Benjamin and Suso really aren't too far behind you. Young Power, talking of him, we haven't mentioned him for a bit. He seems to be doing better in this stint, hanging on the back of Casper, about 7 tenths behind at this moment in time. If we see any penalties from these front drivers, have all kept it fairly clean at the moment, but if there is any penalties, he could well get a podium. That looks extremely unlikely, though, seeing as out of the top 4 drivers, Eustace is the only one with a solid warning. The other 3 completely clean.
Yeah, it's certainly a good opportunity for Young Power to really stamp his claim in F1. He was promoted from F2 whilst he was leading the championship, so he's really got to show that he is worthy of an F1 seat, and he is certainly doing it so far in this race, keeping it in 4th position. He's keeping a nice touching distance with the leaders. Granted, he has used a bit more overtake than the drivers around him, so I guess that is one thing to be considered, but certainly a very strong performance from the very newcoming F1 driver. I'd say we can still call him a newbie in this one, but back to the leaders, it seems like Eustace just keeping within touching distance of Duncan. He was a lot closer through turn 7 than he'd been for a long time in this one, so it looked like he was going for the move, but he had to back off just a little bit on the straightaway, and yeah, he's not going to go for the move this time by, possibly in towards turn number 1, but given the fact that he'll be giving up the DRS, I don't think he'll want to do that whatsoever.
No, he won't. There's another yellow flag there. I think Wilson's just having a bit of fun at the moment. It's been a terrible race for McLaren, 15th and 17th. Hughes pulls out that slipstream slightly, decides to just stay behind Duncan on this occasion. There could be some moves further down the order because Samuel Bean's got 3 very fast, soft shod cars approaching him. Ash, Will and Gamer. This is currently the battle for 12th position, but Samuel Bean doing an okay job at the moment. Quick where he needs to be, using that ERS where he needs to just try and keep those cars behind him. And again, Hughes getting fairly close through turn 7, but just not quite close enough, and actually goes a bit deep there into turn 8. And all that good work he's done getting onto the back of Duncan just ruined with a very slight lockup. Extremely easy to do around here.
Yeah, he's just about lost close touching distance with his teammate, pushing him back the way of Casper as well. Only 4 tenths off the back of the Alfa Romeo car. He could certainly be the one to disrupt this party that these two are having. He's using a bit of overtake, is the Dutchman as well. It's a Dutch 1-2-3 at the moment, so it is pretty much playing for pride at this point, and he's closing right up to the back of Hughes, coming in towards turn 1. He's used up a lot of his resources, a lot of his overtake into the first corner. Hughes going to hang on to that one. Casper not close enough to make an overtake whatsoever, and that is due to the DRS just keeping him in that fight. I think if this was fighting for the lead, Casper would have been sailing on by right past him, but Hughes maintaining P2, the Alfa Romeo 1-2 staying intact at this point. More moves going down the order though, as Ash Best finds his way past Samuel Bean. I think Will LG is also going to be trying for that move very soon.
Yeah, Samuel Bean, I think this could be another one where you're getting past into turn 7. It might be nearly over. It's going to be a huge shot for Will LG. There was just a bit of contact there. Samuel Bean gets a 5-second penalty. We saw how well it can go earlier on. That shows you how badly wrong it can go around this circuit. It definitely does by its virtual safety car. I think the leaders will be glad that wasn't a full safety car. Samuel Bean, I'm not quite sure how to call that one, to be perfectly honest. It just looked like they had a slight touch of wheels, but at 160, 170 mile per hour, massive consequences.
I'm not too sure how I feel about that one coming from Samuel Bean's point of view there. I don't feel it was very clean of him to defend that way. I think Will was probably entitled to a bit more space, but well, I guess that is up to the stewards to decide, and I think Gamer's just going to pounce on the back of the Williams car. He's going right up the inside and towards the first corner. Samuel Bean closing up to Ash Best as well. So these guys getting in a right skirmish. I think Samuel Bean might have almost had a spin. He has just about saved that one there, but yeah, Gamer getting a bit of vengeance for his close friend Will LG, now out of the Grand Prix. No points coming back for him. That makes it another race outside the points for him. One of the only drivers without a point this season whatsoever. And he's just going to have to wait at least one more Grand Prix to take it.
Yeah, Will, the only driver on the grid at the moment who started the first race of the season, who's yet to get any points. But his best finish last time out in Belgium, no points this time around. And he would have had a slight chance, actually, as Recon is now facing the wrong way. It is really not going well for the Faenza-based team this time around. Back towards the lead of this race, though. 5 laps to go at the end of this one. You still trying to close in to the back of Duncan. If the race finished now, it would be Duncan taking the lead of the championship. Gamer, despite a second race in a row without scoring any points, but actually only dropped to second place because Wilson, who's the closest rival, and Samuel Bean having pretty terrible races at this moment in time. Used locking up. We'll see more of those as the tyres get older. Of course, Gamer and Ash Best battling for 12th and 13th place. If there's some penalties or incidents ahead, this could well be a point for them, with Blizzard of course having 5 seconds, and these are battling tooth and nail at the moment. Gamer holding on to that position. Mish gets the fastest lap of the race. He's gone for another pit stop, so I'm not sure if he's actually picked up any damage at any point, but he's down in 15th, getting off those hard tyres, just decided to set that fastest lap, of course. And Simo, he's not closed up in the other Ferrari. He's not closed right up to the back of those cars ahead of him quite at the rate I'd expected him to. He's still about 2 seconds behind.
Yeah, he's not really done much with the soft tyres. He wasn't that close to begin with, to be completely honest with you. But I think this time by, actually, Use is going to go for the move. Duncan defending to the right-hand side very aggressively here. Here comes Use to the outside line, beginning lap 33. The cars come so close to contact, but Use hanging around the outside. Duncan almost going for a spin there. He's just about held on to that one, but Use holding on to the lead. He's into P1. Duncan back into P2. The Alfa Romeo 1-2 still intact. Casper could try and have a look in here, but Use moving into P1. Duncan down into second. Good move from the Dutchman at his home Grand Prix against his teammate.
Yeah, Use saw his opportunity, took it there decisively. Duncan, I think he was quite lucky. I think Casper must have made a small mistake somewhere and was quite lucky that Casper was a bit further behind. Otherwise, Duncan might have actually lost another place there to Casper, but it's still Used. Duncan, Casper, 1, 2, 3 at the moment. And Duncan, you can see, he's just sliding those rears a bit as he tries to get the temperatures back under control. Will that give Casper an opportunity? Will we see Duncan manage to get everything back together and give another go at his teammate? They are starting to come up to some traffic. Recon will be ghosted, of course, but he can still give the DRS to Used, and it can be very distracting when you're driving around with a ghost car, so it's not all straightforward with 3 laps to go. But that Alfa Romeo 1-2 is still on. We've got another yellow flag there. I think Wilson really starting to struggle now on those older medium tyres, just driving around. He's been off through the gravel coming out of turn 7. Any chance of points? Too late in the race now for a safety car, so any chance of points really going out of the window for him. Samuel Bean, 21 lap old tyres round the outside of Ash Best into turn 1. He's going to have the inside line though for turn 3. He's not giving up fighting in this race despite that 5-second penalty. Samuel Bean then takes 13th position off the Red Bull of Ash Best, and Duncan looks to have just calmed things down now, got things back under control. Will he have enough time? He's only, you would imagine, he's got 2 opportunities. His next lap or the final lap into turn 1. We've not really seen anyone get close to a move into turn 10, and if Use gets the DRS off Recon on any of these final laps, it's game over.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not close enough to get DRS this time by on the AlphaTauri driver, but I think Duncan, he's going to try and go for this move here. Using up all of his overtake this time by, and he's actually sub 10% now. The blinking red lights are on. Duncan to the outside line of his teammate. Where have we seen this move before? As right around the outside, Use fighting this one very heavily with his teammate, but Duncan back into the lead at the beginning of lap 35. They make contact. Rear to front wing of Use. He hasn't got any damage, but he's still closing right up to the back of his teammate. He could try for the move in towards turn number 7. That is certainly looking like what he's trying to do. He's hanging back for the time being. Duncan holding on to the lead of the Grand Prix here, now coming in towards turn number 8. I think the move has been secure for this time by, but now the advantage swings back the way of Use, because he's going to have DRS on the final lap.
Yeah, they are both extremely low on ERS. Need to be careful that they don't battle too hard. You wonder whether Casper could still have a very slim chance, but Duncan basically saying anything you can do, I can do better, sunshine. Getting around the outside, taking the lead of this race, and we are going on to the final lap of the race. Wilson's AI car just in the middle of all of these drivers after pitting on a set of for the set of soft tyres in use. Will be absolutely delighted to know that Wilson can't give him a little tap up the backside on the run up towards turn 1. Final lap of the race, and Duncan so far ahead. I think he used the last of his ERS, and Hughes just didn't get a good enough exit to go for that move. Midnight close to the back of Young Power, so he still might see some more moves further down the order, and his teammate Casper closing up to Hughes. So Mercedes going to come good on the final lap of this Dutch Grand Prix. The leaders now heading towards the end of this first sector, coming through turn 6. Hughes closes up ever so slightly. I think those red lights are going to be flashing on the back of these cars pretty much the entire way for the rest of this race now. As long as Duncan doesn't make any mistakes, you'll think he has got a slight chance of well, he's got a very good chance, I'd say. Hughes is going to have the slight chance into turn 10, but he's just not had a good enough exit. Yes, he's got the DRS, but Duncan is going to hold on coming through 11 and 12. Don't allow yourself to get distracted by the McLaren of Wilson driving through you on this occasion. Duncan's results, they're pretty much improved almost every race, every race this season. 11th in Bahrain, 7th in Singapore, 4th in Austria, 3rd in Belgium, 1st in Zandvoort. For Duncan, it's a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo. It's a 1-2-3 for VSR with Casper in 3rd position. Young Power just hanging on for 4th. Midnight with his best result of the season in 5th. Benjamin, Suso, Simo, Schumacher on his debut, picking up a couple of points. Valters taking 10th place after Blizzard drops out of the points, drops down to 12th on penalties. Gamer just missing out then in 11th. Blizzard 12th, Ashbest is 13th, Samuel being 14th. Meets Recon Wilson will finish in that order, 15th, 16th and 17th. He led most of the way for that final stint. Hughes gave it one opportunity, managed to take the lead. Duncan fought straight back on the next lap. Well-deserved victory for him and a well-deserved lead of the championship.
Yeah, that is a really great battle that we have just witnessed there between two teammates. It could have been so easy for them to just sit in each other's DRS and not really fight as hard as they did, but that was hard and clean racing between the pair of them. Both of them, they're going to be having some words, and I don't think they're going to be negative whatsoever because they were fighting hammer and tong throughout the entirety of that final portion of the Grand Prix. What a race we have seen from the pair of them, and it's a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo. They're taking to the top step of the podium. We're just waiting for Wilson to finish up. He wasn't lapped in the end. He wanted to do a final run in this Grand Prix, and yeah, he's going to slow right across. He's coming to the pit lane for whatever reason. He's doing a bit of donuts. For what reason, I'm not too sure. Because by his standards, this has just been an atrocious race, and I think really it was down to bad luck because of the incident with Samuel Bean. There was probably not much he could have done. He certainly could have seen himself in a decent point scoring position in the end, but unfortunately it's P17 right at the back of the order for the McLaren car, and yeah, he's just going to continue to do his donuts until he runs out of fuel presumably.
I think he's trying to get the Dutch fans back on side after last week for that incident with Hughes. They'll be happy enough with the 1-2-3, but he's trying to please them with some donuts, and then a steady reverse across the finish line for Wilson. But it's not him leading the championship. It's not his teammate anymore either. It is Duncan, race winner of round number 5, and we have got that 5th different winner in 5 races here. Gamer, driver of the day, just missing out on points in the end. There is a delighted Duncan on the podium. Hughes on the podium once again. Another 2nd place for him, coming so close to that first win of the season. And Casper getting his first podium since round 1 of season 26. Round 1 of PSGL on F1 2020. We're now in the... I've committed to doing some very quick maths here. We're now in the... I think it's 31st race on PSGL F1 on F1 2020, and it's taken Casper another 30 races from that first one to get a 2nd podium. But these are the provisional results then, pending any penalties. Duncan takes the victory, Hughes 2nd, Casper 3rd. Great job from Young Power to finish in 4th position. Midnight as well, 2 races as a full-time driver, 2 points finishes for him in both of them, finishing in 5th. Benjamin makes his return to the points for the 4th time this season. In 6th, Suso is 7th. Simo finishes in 8th. Schumacher picking up 2 points on his debut. Valters picking up another one in 10th place. Gamer got 11th place. And the in-game driver of the day, Blizzard, wasn't for that first second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Would have seen him pick up some more points. Instead, 12 is all he can do. Aspesh is 13th. Then Samuel Bean. Mish getting the fastest lap of the race in the end. Recon Wilson, the final finisher. Willow G, we saw retiring in that huge accident with Samuel Bean. Petrux, we've retired in the pits, as did Christmas. And a bit like, I'd say, a bit like almost every Dutch Grand Prix, probably every Dutch Grand Prix I've ever commentated on across all leagues. It was a bit of a slow burner, but it livened up right at the end of the race.
Yeah, there was a bit of a lull period when the drivers were kind of caught in traffic. There weren't really many fights, and it was a bit difficult really to make an overtake. So I don't think it was any of their faults really for not going for the overtakes. But it definitely did get better once all the traffic got out of the way, and then the drivers were able to really fight hard. We did see some fighting also throughout the order. I believe Benjamin, not Benjamin actually. Sorry, Young Power and Midnight were fighting for position. I believe that Young Power actually came out on top in that one in 4th position, and Midnight, strong position for him in 5th. He's been pretty quick in the last couple of races since taking his full-time seat in Mercedes, so I'm excited to see if he can possibly pick up a surprise podium later on in the season. But that is the end of the Dutch Grand Prix. What a win for Duncan.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic win. We'll see if they are going to head towards the waiting room for any interviews. Duncan just hanging on, and it was that undercut. Hughes decided to stay on one extra lap, and Duncan thought, I'm not getting stuck in a double stack. I'm coming into the pits this time around. And despite being held up from Gamer for such a long time, we thought that might end up costing him in the end. I think because, obviously, Hughes was in the DRS train as well, Casper and all the others were still stuck behind Blizzard. In the end, it didn't cost him anything.
Yeah, really didn't do much for his race in the end. I'm just trying to see if I can message the guys on Twitter to see if they want to come in for the interview. Oh, you already done that. Never mind then. So hopefully we will get some of those guys in, and we can interview them on their performances, because I think all the top 3 drivers being a part of the same esports org, I think well, God, the VSR management team, like Brett and such, I saw him in the chat. He was very happy with his driver's performances. I think the entire VSR chat is going to be very pleased with what they've seen today.
I think the last time Brett was this happy, he was watching Stephen Gerrard lift a trophy for Rangers. But we will then we'll get some of our top 3 into the commentary box then for the first of our driver interviews. And the one we've just brought in is becoming a bit of a familiar theme this season for Duncan. 2nd podium in a row, 1st victory at your home race as well. Tell us how it feels.
Yeah, it feels amazing. I'm actually a bit speechless. Yeah, it was sweating till the end.
Yeah, fantastic performance from yourself. I'm just trying to do some very quick looking here to see when your last win. I mean, have you had a win before in PSGL F1?
Nope, it was my first one.
That's why I couldn't find when your last win was. So congratulations on your first win in the top tier.
Thanks.
But your teammate definitely made it hard for you in the final stages.
Yeah, definitely. We were also in a party, so we were just quiet and both tried to take the victory. Just made a mistake in the final corner in lap 34, I guess. So that helped me a lot, and that's why I could make the overtake.
5th different winner this season from 5 races. You're now leading the championship by 8 points. You've got to be feeling pretty good about your chances of leading it in 5 races' time.
Yeah, definitely. We will see how it goes this season.
We will indeed. Dan, do you have any questions for Duncan?
Yeah, first of all, just really well done for your performances today, and of course your battle with your teammate. It was really great to see you two really fighting it hard. But I just want to ask about next race. We head to France, and last time we came here in season 27, you picked up a pretty decent points paying position. You got 5 points in the end. How's the confidence around this circuit, and do you think you could be fighting for a maybe a podium again at this track?
France, I know like most of the tracks and most of the races, qualifying is not really good around there, but I'm pretty confident about my race pace around France. So yeah, hopefully I can start a bit at the front and then make the moves.
Absolutely. Well, I've not really got any other questions for you, but yeah, just once again, really well done for your performance today, and I'm hoping for the best for you for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, congratulations, Duncan, on your first win of the season. We'll now bring in Duncan's teammate, Used, who took another podium, just missing out on that first victory, but 2 podiums in a row. You must be feeling very happy. Tinged with a bit of disappointment, though, that the undercut probably ended up costing you the victory there.
Yeah. I was thinking of going for the undercut because I was in the party with Duncan, and he said when you go to the pit, and I said I will go a lap longer, and then he was going, and he ended up in traffic. Then I got held in the pit a bit door Williams sound beam, I think, and then yeah, the traffic hold us up. So that was a bit frustrating, but overall, a good race.
Yeah, a good race from yourself. Both of you pushing the ERS towards the end of the race. Were you thinking maybe going for a move a bit earlier on, but were you quite happy that that's the point when you went for the move, or do you wish you'd now waited a lap longer?
I think it's very difficult to overtake. You have to be very close, and there was a lap I was very close, and Duncan didn't expect it. So for me, that was the perfect place, but it cost you a lot of ERS, and then Duncan had more ERS, could push close to me, and then he overtook me on the outside, but didn't want to defend too hard because we are teammates and we have to get some good points for the constructors.
Yeah, he did get good points, 28 points out of possible 29 today. Dan, do you have any questions for Joost?
Yes, so I guess I'll just go down a similar route to what I asked Duncan. Coming into France next week, you've had two podiums in a row, two second positions actually in a row. So coming into the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, do you think possibly you could turn it into a P1?
I don't know yet. I think it's possible, but it will be difficult.
All right, well, yeah, fair enough on that one, but really well done for your race today. It was really clean and well fought between the both of you. So I'm hoping for the best for the rest of your season.
Thanks.
Yeah, congratulations to Joost on his second place in a row and continuing the VSR theme in this commentary box. I think Dan's probably feeling a bit left out at the moment. It is our third place finisher, getting his first podium since Austria in season 26. It is Casper. Fantastic performance from yourself today, but being third man in that train meant it was always going to be difficult to overtake either of the Alfa Romeos.
Yeah, hello. Well, thank you. I'm a bit surprised to be here, to be honest. Like, I didn't expect it at all. I'm just here to race for fun, and I had a lot of fun today. And I also got the podium, so I'm just really happy.
Yeah, well, up to ninth in the championship all of a sudden. You're doing more than racing for fun. You're doing an incredibly good job. Tell us how difficult it is when you're in the position you were in, knowing that you've got DRS lap after lap after lap, but knowing that the chances of you being able to actually make an overtake completely rely on the car in front making a mistake.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be really difficult to overtake here on Zandvoort. So in the first stint on the soft, when I was in P5, I went for a move in the corner named Schijfvlak on Samuel Bien, I believe it was. It was quite a surprising move because I knew I had to make a surprising move in order to overtake, because if you do it on the main straight with the DRS trains, it is just not possible. And then I pushed my ERS to do the overcut on Young Power, and after that, I was just behind the guys on the alternate strategy, just saving my ERS up to 100%. And then, I knew that Joost and Duncan also had 100% ERS. So I knew it was just going to be really difficult to overtake them at the end.
Yeah, really difficult, but you did hang on obviously to get that third position. Dan, do you have any questions for Casper?
Yeah, I think I've only really got one question for all three of them, but I guess I need to come up with some better questions. But coming to France next week, what's the confidence like around there? And is this a track that you do enjoy?
Yeah, well, I just enjoy league racing in general. It doesn't matter what track it is. I just do a bit of practice every week, and then I just see how it goes on the Monday.
Oh, that's quite a good way actually to hold on league racing. I guess you just do it for fun, really. So I
Yeah,
hope you do continue to have fun in this season of PSGL, and I'm wishing for the best.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I wish I could do it for fun and finish higher than 11th in F12, but hey ho, not all of us are that talented. Congratulations, Casper, on your first podium of the season.
Thank you.
Well, that is pretty much it then from another hectic race, Dutch Grand Prix, over and done with. And as you alluded to, Daniel, next time around next week, it is going to be the French Grand Prix. Another circuit where it's pretty difficult to overtake. You have got obviously the long Mistral straight and another circuit that's probably not on any driver's favourites list.
I'll tell you what, France is actually a bit of an underrated circuit. I do find, aside from the third sector, which is quite horrible in my opinion, but it's a good circuit actually, especially with the flow. Sorry, I bashed my microphone there. I hope nothing got picked up there. But yeah, I think it will catch us with some surprise. And I do remember in F1 last season that was quite the Grand Prix. So possibly in season 28 we could see a repeat of that one and have a really good Grand Prix.
Yeah, hopefully we do as well. I think I agree with you. France is a circuit I always seem to enjoy for whatever reason, and around that circuit, track limits are definitely extremely important. If you want to get a bit more PSGL action, though, make sure to check out the final race of the Classic Championship tomorrow. It is Japan in the Williams in 1996, the one that took Damon Hill towards the championship. Who will be stopping and who will be getting a lump in their throat as they are crowned the champion of the Classic Series? There's also the PC League with George Morgan and Jack Canane on the Thursday at 7 p.m. They are going around Bahrain. Also on Thursday, we've got F11 and F12 on the PlayStation. Sunday has F8 to F10, and then the top 7 tiers right here on the PSGL channel with ourselves at 8 p.m. around the circuit. Paul Ricard, where we've had 5 winners in 5 races, and Duncan jumping up from 6th in the championship to take the lead. But we've seen it change hands a couple of times this season, and a few drivers are now starting to make themselves known and be regulars towards the order. Will we have a repeat winner at Paul Ricard, or will someone make it 6 out of 6 next time around? Thank you for Dan for joining me in the comms box. Thank you for all the drivers that joined for the interviews and took part in the race. Thanks to everyone who was watching and interacting in the chat, and we'll see you next time around for the French Grand Prix. Good night.